They say betrayal doesn't arrive like a hurricane. It's more like a slow leak, silent, invisible. Until one day the ceiling caves in. It was a Wednesday when the ceiling collapsed. I was plating dinner. Wild salmon with lemon butter sauce, the recipe David loved, or used to. The apartment smelled like rosemary and steam. I had music playing softly. Billie Holiday, something nostalgic. I lit the candles on the table, not because he'd notice, but because I still believed in pretending. Then my phone buzzed on the counter. Running late. Emergency meeting. Don't wait up. The message might as well have been automated, emotionless and precise. I stared at the screen for a long moment, wine glass in hand, the candlelight flickering like a dying heartbeat. Emergency meeting. Again. I didn't rage, didn't throw my phone. I just turned off the burner, opened a second bottle of wine, and took my place alone at the table meant for two. Every bite tasted like ash. I watched the Manhattan skyline from the penthouse window and realized I was already living alone. I just hadn't left yet. A week later, I found her. It started with a lipstick. Chanel. Rouge Allure Velvet, the kind you wear to be seen. It rolled out of David's briefcase when he tossed it onto the bed. I picked it up, stunned. "I don't wear this shade," I said. He didn't even flinch, just shrugged like it wasn't worth lying. "Whose is it?" I asked, still trying to sound calm, dignified. He turned on the shower and left me standing there, lipstick in hand, my stomach twisting into something feral. The next day, I followed him. I know how that sounds. Desperate, weak. But I needed to know. Needed the truth to break the last of my denial. He met her in Soho. A narrow brownstone. She opened the door in a silk robe, kissed him with practiced ease. She was maybe 10 years younger. Long legs, hair too perfect to wake up with. She looked like every cliché I had sworn I'd never become the victim of. I didn't confront him that night. I went home, sat on the edge of our marriage bed, and cried into the silence. The next morning, I packed a bag and made an appointment with a divorce lawyer. The divorce was surgical. Quick, clean, and bloodless. David didn't fight. Barely showed up. His lawyer did the talking. Mine did the listening. Our assets were split, though I later learned he'd stashed money in offshore accounts. Of course he had. There were no children to fight over. Just memories. Ghosts of promises made in better years. I left the penthouse to him and moved uptown. My new apartment had peeling paint, paper-thin walls, and a sink that leaked. But it was mine. I bought mismatched furniture and painted the walls soft lavender. It was quiet. For a while, too quiet. I poured myself into my work at the gallery. Art was therapy. Shapes and shadows spoke what I couldn't. I stopped checking David's social media, stopped responding to mutual friends who asked if I was okay. I wasn't. But I was surviving, which felt like enough. Then one day, Ethan walked into my life with charcoal-stained fingers and questions that cut through my armor. He was just another artist. Or so I thought. Ethan came to the gallery as part of a group exhibition. Quiet, tall, with paint-stained knuckles and that disheveled look that said he spent more time thinking about light than his reflection. I remember the first time he asked me a question. He stood in front of a piece I'd just hung, an abstract in black and crimson. "What do you see in this?" he asked without turning. I studied it a moment. I didn't know he was testing me. "Grief," I said. "But not the fresh kind, the kind that lingers. That's turned into ritual." He turned then, really looked at me. "You've felt it," he said. It wasn't a question. We began talking. At first it was about art, brushstrokes, color theory, technique. Then it shifted. We spoke about quiet things, broken marriages, disappointment, the strange ache of surviving betrayal. He never pried, never pushed, just listened. He didn't ask me out right away. I appreciated that. I needed time to believe in good men again. When he finally kissed me on a rainy Thursday night under the awning of the gallery, I didn't pull away. I cried a little, not because I was sad, but because it felt safe. And I hadn't felt safe in years. 3 months later, I found out I was pregnant. I stared at the plus sign like it was a riddle. Pregnant. I wasn't sure how to tell Ethan. We'd only just begun. I was still learning how to be myself again. But when I told him, his expression didn't darken. He knelt in front of me, put his palm on my stomach, and whispered, "We've got this." He started painting me, in shadows, in silhouette, in laughter I didn't know I still had. We named her Lily long before she was born. Ethan said it meant renewal, rebirth. I clung to the symbolism like a lifeline. Meanwhile, the world outside spun on. David and Jenna were plastered all over Instagram, attending charity galas, baby showers, rooftop brunches. I didn't engage, but mutual acquaintances did. Screenshots landed in my inbox. One photo stopped me cold. Jenna pregnant, round belly, manicured nails cradling her bump. The caption read, "Waiting for Max. Maximum." Our daughter would be born a month before him. Parallel lives. Perfect symmetry. Only I hadn't stolen anyone's husband to get mine. Lily came into the world with a scream that shook me to the core. She was perfect. Tiny fingers, a tuft of dark hair, eyes like mine. Ethan cried when he held her. "You made something beautiful out of the wreckage," he whispered. I didn't respond. I was too busy memorizing the weight of her, the warmth. The months that followed were sleepless but full. Ethan painted by day, took shifts with me at night. Lily fit into our life like a final puzzle piece. Then came the message. It was a Tuesday afternoon. Lily was asleep on my chest. Ethan had just left for a meeting. The door buzzer rang. When I opened it, a courier handed me an envelope. Inside was a legal notice. Petition for paternity verification. My knees buckled. David. He had filed for a DNA test, accusing me of cheating, of hiding his child from him. I stared at the document, heart pounding. I hadn't spoken to him since the divorce. We hadn't even made eye contact in court. Why now? I didn't need to wonder long. The next day, Jenna's face appeared on a gossip blog. Headline, "Billionaire's widow to be? David Morgan's estate under threat from ex-wife." That was the game. Money, not love. Never love. He didn't care about Lily. He cared about ownership. We submitted to the court's order. Swabs, chain of custody, papers signed under fluorescent lights. 3 days later, David was dead. The call came just after midnight. I had just rocked Lily to sleep and was shuffling through her laundry when the phone rang. Unknown number. "Claire, this is Olivia, Jenna's sister." I froze. "I thought you should hear it from someone. David's dead. There was a crash. Midtown Tunnel. Single vehicle. Speeding. He hit the barrier head on." I said nothing. She continued. "He and Jenna had a fight. At some donor gala. She was screaming. He stormed out, left in a rage." She paused. "He tried to take Max with him. Jenna stopped him just in time." Thank God the line went quiet. I sat on the floor and held Lily to my chest. I didn't cry. I couldn't. Not for him. The funeral was closed casket. I didn't attend. Jenna, in black Chanel and fake tears, made a spectacle of herself on social media. Tributes poured in. Articles called him a visionary, a devoted father, the kind of man who built empires. No one wrote about the lipstick. No one asked about the woman he left behind. 3 weeks later, I was summoned to the lawyer's office. I expected formalities, paperwork, maybe a nod toward Lily's DNA results, which had arrived a day before David's death. It was clear. Lily was Ethan's child, not David's. What I didn't expect was this. The estate of David Morgan, the lawyer read aloud, including all properties, liquid and illiquid assets, offshore holdings, and residual stocks, is to be transferred in full to Claire Morgan. Silence. Jenna's mouth dropped open. I'm sorry, what? The lawyer didn't blink. David failed to update his will after the divorce. This version, signed and notarized 9 months before the separation, names Claire as the sole beneficiary. Jenna's face turned red. I was his wife when he died. Legally, yes, but the will predates that. It is binding. Unless you can prove undue influence or a new will exists, which our office has not received. I gave him everything, she whispered. I stood. No, I said. You took everything. Now it's simply finding its way back. Jenna came at me with claws. She filed an appeal, hired a team of lawyers, launched a smear campaign in tabloids, claiming I'd faked the DNA results, that David suspected Lily was his and had been planning to amend the will before his tragic death. Her social media turned vicious. Cryptic posts, passive-aggressive jabs, carefully curated pity. But I had truth. And evidence. My lawyer countered with documentation, the DNA results, timestamps, Ethan's paternity declaration, dated photographs, even Ethan's own letters of intent from before Lily was born. Then came the final blow. Discovery unearthed David's secret accounts. Hidden funds he'd shielded from me during our marriage. The court ruled not only to uphold the will, but to award me an additional portion as restitution for marital fraud. Jenna lost everything. She appealed again, lost again. And then the final ruling hit. The estate was irrevocably transferred, all assets locked. She screamed in court, "You ruined his life." No, I said, standing with Lily in my arms. He did that all by himself. I didn't sell the mansion. I gutted it. The walls were the first to go. They were painted over with color. Warm terracottas, deep blues, yellows that sang like sun. Every photo of our past was removed. Every surface reclaimed. I turned the East Wing into a children's studio and reading room. A safe place for little ones to play and imagine. We opened it to the community. I created a foundation in Lily's name. Quiet, private, powerful. But most unexpected of all, I created a trust for Max, because the boy had done nothing wrong. He didn't ask for the sins of his parents. And one day, when he's old enough to understand, I want him to know that he was seen, that someone cared. Ethan understood. He helped me file the papers. He's not yours, he said. No, I replied. But he's someone's, and that's enough. Jenna found out. She sent me a letter, 1 part guilt, 2 parts venom. She said I was just performing a kindness, so that I was to be seen as better than her. I didn't respond, because when you've finally made peace with your story, you don't argue with the footnotes. 10 years later, Lily and Max ran barefoot through the garden of what used to be David's empire. They chased fireflies, shrieking with joy. The sculpture garden glittered under string lights and laughter. I sat with Ethan on the porch, a glass of wine in my hand. He looked out over the property, once a battlefield, now a sanctuary. Do you ever think about him? He asked. How it all might have been if he hadn't died? I thought of David's anger, Jenna's envy, the lies, the cold marriage, the lipstick. I do, I said, but not with regret. I touched his hand. He died long before the crash. That night only made it official. Lily called out to us from the garden. Max followed her, laughing like he had not a single burden in the world. And in that moment, I felt the final tether snap. I didn't win. I survived. I rebuilt. This wasn't revenge, this was resurrection. Thanks for listening to my story. If you've ever had to walk away from something that broke you, Know you are stronger than you realize. Hit subscribe for more powerful real-life journeys.